So I realize tonight, and maybe at other times too, but when I get sleepy, I start falling asleep and my mind wanders, and then I'll suddenly think of a movie. And it's like I wake right up. And that bothers me. Why can't the Dharma wake me up like that? What can I do, What kind of.
Well, the first answer is it's just habit. The mind is habituated to, wow, movies are interesting, Dharma's not. It really is habit. And so it's long-term just building the new habit, doing the session, staying as bright-minded as you can, but just have to build the new habit. Lama Michael used to say, working with habits is this, like, usually in the morning you habitually get up and you put your pants on by putting your right leg in first. You probably don't even notice you do that. But tomorrow you say, I'm going to do my left leg first. And then that day you remember, the next day you forget, then you remember, then you keep doing it. Okay, left leg first, left leg first. It's just like that. But there are techniques for brightening the mind when you're falling asleep. One of the ones I don't tend to fall asleep. I'm so excited. My mind is like, I have to do this thing quite often that goes, I got it out of one of the first Mahamudra practice books I ever read called Eliminating the Darkness of Ignorance. It's in there, and it's a really early book, and I like that really early kind of non-Western language, But at one point, it's Wangchuk Dorje that wrote it, and he just says, when your mind gets filled with thoughts, you say, wherever your thoughts were going, go there now. And I did that tonight because my mind started just really cranking up. And if I can see it and then say that, it's almost like sweeping something off the desk. It's like it just flings off for the moment. You say it pretty firmly. Wherever your thoughts were going, go there now. And there's kind of just some kind of... But that's for the excited mind. For the sleepy mind, you can brighten your own mind. First, you just notice it and intend to brighten it. So you can, it's kind of like going like this versus just brighten it. Just do it. But one Lama talked about you can bring a white light in through here, very bright, like a tigle, just a teeny, very bright white light, like a concentrated light, and you just drop it down to your heart and then let it go back up out. And that can really help. But also, the one I was using with sleepiness, the one time I got sleepy in a long retreat, which was quite helpful, was looking right at the sleepiness. And it was so interesting. It was like, okay, I'm feeling sleepy. And then going, what is this? What is this? And first, mindful of body, what it feels like, that sort of sinking thing. And mindful of mind, that sort of foggy. So you're just really honing in. And that honing in wakes you up. Does that make sense to try? Whatever rises up, you can hone in on. The other thing they say, the classic things are go throw cold water on your face. Really, meditate with a cup of water on your head so that, if you're someone who falls over asleep, you won't. And what were the other ones? We used to laugh at that one. Put a little cup of water on your head so you'll sit straight. If you're dressed warmly, take a shawl off. You want to cool yourself a little. But a lot of it's just intent, like raising your intention. I'm going to look at this sleepiness. I'm not going to go there. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's habit too. I know this one person, a dear, dear Dharma friend of mine. She's one of the nuns at Sravasti. She's still, after, I don't know how long she's been practicing, 25 years, she still struggles with sleep. She'll be there and she'll just conk out. And so it's just lifetimes of habit. And you just stay with it, try different things. Yeah. But it's good, Linda, that you see, wow, my mind wants to watch a movie, and it's all excited about that. I watch the same thing at home. I sort of go, okay, how much enthusiasm do I bring to the cushion? A lot of times it's like, okay, I'm going to do that. And then if it's like I get to cook a new recipe down in my kitchen, I love to cook. It's like, yay, I'm chopping squash and I'm doing this. I'm so happy. And it's like, look at these. And that first part's just seeing it. It's okay, just seeing it. And then we just train towards that. Because, me making a lot of different squash soups this winter, which I have done. Almost one different one every 2 days. It's not going to, when I die, be significant. But the time I've trained my mind will be. Not that you can't use making soup to train your mind, because I often do. I go, wow, what a dependent arising. I'm holding a squash. Where'd that come from? I didn't grow it, But most of the time I'm just in the movie of squash soup, which I like sometimes better than sitting. Not always, so it is shifting. Yeah. It's pretty common, right? I mean, don't we? We all want to get up off the cushion and go do something more interesting. Yeah. We just keep working with it. The good news is it does change. I mean, I often tell people, and it is absolutely true, that when I first started in the Dharma, I made myself sit 3 minutes morning and 3 minutes night. And I felt like it was horrible. It was so hard for me. I was so speedy. I was activist, lawyer, mommy, and just 3 minutes, Zopa. Just get in front of the altar 3 minutes, and I found it really painful. I went to a very early workshop with Lama Michael and Kim MacLeod. They taught it together out at Cloud Mountain in maybe 94, 95. At the end of it, they asked people to make a commitment of what they would do. And I made a commitment that for the next, I think it was 30 days, I would sit 15 minutes. And I hated that commitment. When I got home, I did it, but it was total misery. And when the 30 days got over, I said, I'm never making a commitment like that again. Because it didn't fit for me, it was too much. That was okay. It was an experiment, and I did it, but I did not have fun, So we just have to work with what we've got at the moment. And one thing I've said over and over, but it's so true, to rejoice in any progress we've made. Really. Think of the progress you've made from the first time yeah, and me too. I think, wow, amazing. And that's the thing to watch. We have a habit of watching what we can't do and what we're not good at, and that's just, but that discourages us. So there's no need. Yeah. Linda, other
I don't-
Linda.
I don't know that I feel like I've made a lot of progress.
Uh-huh.
I feel more like I've made progress in some ways, but not others. So I'm really happy that you said that thing of 3 minutes in the morning, and I can do that. I think. I think. I don't know that I'm going to make the commitment right here and now to do it, but
Yeah.
it sounds like a good idea, and so I'm going to try that. But the thing that I think that has been progressive and good is that I find myself just through the course of the day thinking much more intentionally about the Dharma and being more mindful. And that has become much more, just a part of the way I go through the world now. But I'm still not so good about sitting on the cushion for very long.
Yeah. It's going to be different for different people.
Yeah.
Some people love the cushion, and they have a very hard time with what's called off the cushion practice. Like they love to be on the cushion. They get up, they go do their day, and they don't even think about the Dharma. I mean, of course, they're being influenced by their practice on the cushion, but they don't think about it much. Others really, the way in is the off the cushion practice. Remembering during the day to quickly do one breath or quickly do mantras, or just feeling angry at someone and then saying to yourself, may they be well, may they be happy. Those are all great, But we need both. Yeah, they complement each other.
Well,
each one will help the other.
Yeah, well, when you were saying earlier that you couldn't, at an earlier point in your life, you were more agitated and you couldn't sit still. I find that to be the case when I'm at home. I'm better at it when I come here.
Yeah.
And so that's why it's important to come, at least for me, to get stronger with that. But tonight, what I was thinking originally that I was going to say was when I was sitting back there, and I came in late because there is an incredible storm out there, and I found myself in the middle of it. And there are accidents all over the place, because it was a torrential downpour.
So much rain.
It was so much rain all of a sudden. So I had to sort of wend my way around traffic. But anyway, so when I finally got here, I was a little bit agitated. And then when I sat, I couldn't keep my mind on, I couldn't keep it focused and clear. And as things came up, I realized that I was latching on. So I have like an entire essay that I created while I was sitting there, and it was a good one. And then I realized what I had done, and I thought, okay, well that can be set aside. But it kept happening,
Yeah. Me too.
Okay.
That
Good.
happened to me too. One thing is to get clear. What was your object of meditation? Were you clear on it?
Well, I did follow the black dot suggestion.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And even with the black dot, it's good to do the breath. So you're just kind of, the dot can kind of sometimes bring us kind
That's
of
true.
down and anchored.
And I forgot the breath.
But the breath right here at the nostrils, the more you focus there very finely, very precisely, you really start feeling it. And the Buddha in the sutras, one of the things he first taught is, my monks, when they breathe out, know they're breathing out. When they breathe in, they know they're breathing in. And it was like, and experiencing the gap before the next breath starts. Just each part of it, Being interested in the breath, which people go, why would I be interested in my breath? This one practitioner went to an old teacher and said, I'm just so bored, I can't get interested in my breath. And the old guy stood up and pinched the guy's nose and held it till he practically passed out. Then he said, now, are you interested in your breath? It connects us to life, I mean, it's a funny story, but it was like, you better get interested in your breath. So anyway, another story was somebody saying they weren't they were really focused on their breath, but not finding it so helpful. And oh, I know. And the person said, and so because it's kind of boring, I fall asleep. And the teacher said to her, when you fell asleep, was there more air going out of your right nostril or your left? I mean, that tells you what they're talking about focus, you know. I can't tell. But really, it's like, get there with that. And then one thing I experienced just a little bit now that I have a little experience is the other senses aren't so active once you really get here. The sounds, they just flow. You don't go, oh, that's rain. Oh, there's an airplane going over. Oh, you know, I hear the heater turning off and on. Those just kind of come in. So that's a good sign that you're awake. It's not like when you're sleepy and they get shut out, but it's just that you're focusing right there. And so you're not so pulled off by all those, or even by, oh, my knee aches, or, you know, whatever else the sensations are. But just be, you know, gentle and persistent. What we lack is persistence. Even in a single session, we kind of give up, don't we? We kind of go, oh, this is good enough, just floating around. But it's not. That's not it. That's not doing it. It's really aware and awake. I like the image of a lion, you know, a lion that's sitting there. You know, have you ever seen a lion? They're very relaxed, yet they're so alert. If there's even a leaf that moves, you know, they know it. And so that's a nice image to use, because it's also very dignified. We want to be dignified about our sitting.
And their life depends on it, right? On that focus. The lions.
Yeah, well, ours does too. Really. Because if we don't know what's going on in our mind, that's called mindless. And we can do a lot of damage. Hi, Matthew.
I have a question about attachment and emotion.
Attachment to emotion.
Attachment and emotion.
And emotion.
You know, there's a lot of talk of afflictive emotions,
Mm-hmm.
and the thought sort of just like I kind of spontaneously a question came into my mind earlier this evening of whether the emotions are by their nature afflictive, or if the affliction is the result of attachment, and the emotion itself isn't necessarily intrinsically an affliction. If there's a distinction between emotion with attachment and emotion without attachment, maybe, or if emotions are afflictions because of attachment.
So, can you think of an emotion that has no attachment to it?
Not one that I could name.
Yeah. It's a tricky question, but I'm trying to think of why. First of all, as I understand it, in particularly Tibetan Buddhist philosophy, emotion and thought aren't different. And so if you start looking at that, every emotion has thought patterns, right? I mean, we say something like pure emotion, okay? Pure love, let's say. But what's that? if you're human, it has bodily sensations, it has thought patterns. So I don't know if that starts to unravel it, but until we're completely awakened and we see there's no separate self and other, there's not even a separate emotion, then attachment's, I think, always going to be there. And attachment can be with anger, with romantic notions, with love, with joy, all of it. Because we're so stuck in this ignorance of how things are. We're not bad, but we are stuck in seeing the whole world as me and that. But I was just thinking during my meditation, can Zopa be here if this room is not here? I mean, can you have a Matthew floating in space? Not really, because you'd still have to have space. And then Matthew is that space. My Lama Geshe Kelsang used to say, every time you walk into a new room, you are that. You are that now. I am Zopa here. When I go home, I'm Zopa there. But Zopa always has to be somewhere, right? She can't just be amorphously in space, because then people would not say that's Zopa. One time Lama Michael asked me, he said, is there an inside of Zopa and an outside of Zopa? I meditated on that for quite a while. Like, is there? Could there be? Could there be? And are they different? Don't they both have to be there for a Zopa to be there? For a Zopa to be here, right now, here, with these conditions, the conditions have to be here. And we call those external. But is it really external? So we get attached to this personhood, separate, having emotions, and we think they're really important. And the culture really feeds that view with all the music, movies, books. Our emotions are so important. Romantic love is so important. And we have to look at, what is it? There was a lot of questions this morning around this same issue. And one thing I forgot to say, when we get really attached to someone, there were a lot of questions around relationships, and relationships ending, relationships not being satisfying. One of the ways attachment functions is we exaggerate the positive. We see something that's not actually there. So we know this in the first stages of falling in love. We fall in love with our fantasy of the person. We do. It's just we can't help it. We aren't really seeing the person because we don't really know them very well. 2 years later, you're kind of knowing the person. Then maybe more love could grow because you're kind of having to break your fantasy and put the real person in. But a lot of times at that time, if we've been really in our fantasy, it becomes really difficult. When I did divorce mediations, the two most common times of people divorcing were at the 2-year mark, when things got, I called it when things got real. The things I don't like about you are now showing up, or my fantasies getting shredded, right? Because I have to deal with the real person who doesn't put their socks away and who, always wants to tell the same old story and, or whatever. And then there was either that, or it was often when the children left home, when kids went off to college and stuff around, 20 years later. Not saying there weren't other times, but it was huge numbers in those two categories. And it's because we've exaggerated the positive, then we've stuck on it. We're really in love with a phantom. The real person is kind of, unfortunately, almost left out. Now, we do the same thing about anger. We exaggerate the negative. I hear people say about some people, well, she's like this and he's like this. We say that. That's just one piece of one interaction. So is that the whole person? Like I exaggerate the negative out of Donald Trump completely, but there are some people who love him and some people who will probably tell you he has helped them a lot and who appreciate that. I can hardly let that in even as I say it, but it's true. So we exaggerate the negative and get angry, we exaggerate the positive and we try and grab, but neither of those are the reality.
Well, I guess I can't help but wonder. About loving kindness, compassion.
Mm-hmm. What do you wonder about? They're good. They're fine.
But they still seem to be. We still seem to be characterizing them as thoughts and emotions.
They are. They're thoughts and emotions. But the difference is, which thought patterns and emotions lead toward no suffering, and which lead to more suffering. That's the guide. That's how to parse them out. Does that help?
I guess I'm kind of what I'm poking at in myself is kind of a more broad confusion about emotions that arise, that things like grief, sadness, emotions that are often characterized as negative. And I sometimes wonder about emotion, the way that emotions are characterized, like, even things like, love in sort of the love for an individual sense, for a particular individual, that sort of love. It seems that it's very easy it's easier for me to feel confused about those emotions and whether they're bad, whether they're emotions that I need to not follow or let go of, or if those can somehow be beneficial if I just let them be as they are. If it's like how to,
Yeah.
I don't want to. It doesn't feel right to just let them go as if nothing's happening.
Oh yeah, don't do that. No. Two things. There are no bad emotions. There are no good emotions. Buddhism doesn't do that. It's just if it occurs, experience it. So we have to kind of honor it. Like this morning I was really grieving about Bill's announcement, and I really honored that. I mean, I just felt it. It comes off and on. I don't try to push it away, but I don't romanticize it by trying to drag it out like a drama. That's what I mean by romanticizing.
So it's not as simple as.
It's not like I'll
afflictive
go kill myself over it and be in the movie of, Yeah. I mean, really, we see those stories a lot. Like my emotions got so much, I had to throw myself off a cliff. Well, that's leading towards suffering.
So
right?
it's not as simple as there are these afflictive emotions and then these unafflictive emotions. They are
listed in a book called Mind and Mental Factors, and there's a list of like 54, and there's the ones that are considered towards lack of suffering and towards suffering. But in your own experience, you can read lists, but you have to see for yourself. Does this one lead? Where does this lead me? And am I clinging to it, to the emotion itself? Or do I see that it comes and goes? It's not around every moment. Even you get a broken heart, which I've had plenty of, it doesn't last.
It's not like it's always there every single
I'm
second.
totally over every one of those broken hearts. And at the time, it was so painful, so much depression, so much drama. And it was real in a relative sense, But we need to watch out for, do we feed the drama because we're bored, or because it makes us feel important, or because without it, what would we do? Maybe we'd be happy. Maybe we'd find something wonderful to do. But we don't let that happen sometimes. You know what I'm talking? So really, the key is watching in your own life, your own experience. Does this lead to suffering? Does this lead? And you're talking yourself. Forget even the other person. But for me, in my mind, does this lead me to happiness, meaning peace? Or does this lead me to more suffering, agitation, sadness, depression, all that? Because we're really in charge of those in a certain way, or we can become. We aren't ever going to stop them from popping up. That's not the point. When they pop up, it's to see it, then identify it, and then work with it and watch it go. That help?
Yeah.
Yeah. And all those are just thoughts. You still have to experience it. Yeah. Take refuge. So key to do that.
Yeah, actually I meant to ask about that. Is it necessary to register for just attending the refuge ceremony?
No, if you're going to be formally taking it.
No.
And you've already done that. So, but if you want to come to renew, you just come. And as the people do the ceremony, you're just in the back, in your mind, joining and renewing your refuge.
Okay.
Yeah. And that'll be about 4 o'clock on January 1st.
Okay.
Yeah. But I'm saying every moment that I get lost in all this stuff, I literally say the refuge prayer. I'm in a habit of doing it, I don't know how many times a day. It's good to do it 100 times a day, because we're lost 150,000 moments of the day. So a lot of times I don't know what to do, and I just say, I take refuge in Buddha, Dharma, Sangha. Sometimes I just try to picture the face of one of my teachers. A lot of times when I come up here, I try and picture my teachers, because then I really feel like I'm not up here by myself. I'm really not up here by myself, believe me, because if I was, you'd be suffering. But I've got my teachers here, and really, they are, and I feel fortunate that way. So picture someone that inspires you. Right now I have a pretty big picture in my room of Martin Luther King, because I was just going through this really dark time about politics and stuff. And then I was thinking about who's been through those kind of times and just carried forth with huge dignity and love. And man, that guy did it, And he had many worse things to go through than I do. I mean, people were trying to kill him, So it's important to inspire ourselves,
I had a question about focus in meditation, like we were talking about earlier. Of a sense of something that it also connects to the question about emotion. Can you hear all right? Am I mumbling?
Yeah.
So the emotion piece of it, and maybe this isn't qualified as an emotion. I was thinking about an emotion of coming to present and renunciation as a sense of it feels like a mood anyway. It feels like a mood when it happens, maybe in the middle of a sit or in listening to the Dharma. Just a few minutes ago when you were talking, that sense of, I don't know how to describe it, acceptance just came to me, right? Like for the whole sit, it didn't come to me.
Yeah.
I wasn't sitting like I was struggling.
Yeah.
But listening to the discussion with Matthew, I felt this mood of arriving for a moment. Like, oh, here, this is it. This is. And it felt emotive, but not emotive like, well, like you were saying, what brings you to happiness and what brings you away from happiness.
Yeah.
It's very peaceful. It's a mood of peacefulness.
Yeah. Good.
But that's not the emotions we're talking about. That's certainly not conflicted.
Well, I don't think it
Afflicted.
matters what the name of it is. Like, is it an emotion or not? But as you were talking, I was following you and kind of getting it too. It is hard to talk about. You used one word, renunciation. When we renounce, we're just renouncing the suffering of the aversion and attraction. Aversion and attraction. This is what we do all day. I want that. I want my lunch now. I don't have it with me. I got to go get it. Or where should I go? You know, aversion and attraction. Aversion and attraction. When we get those moments free of those, it's just peace. It's just peace. Is peace an emotion? I don't know. Maybe it's lack of emotion. Doesn't matter. Right? If we just, it's just wonderful to even get a nanosecond. I mean, they call it like a flash of lightning in a dark night. It's rare, you know.
It's feelable. It's feelable.
Yes, it is.
You can
That's a good word.
So it's not
It's-
but it's not what you'd call an emotion generally.
No, it's an experience. So, yeah.
So relating something like that to the attention part, sometimes the earlier discussion about attention or in meditation, getting lost or found in the process of trying to be present. I've found a couple of times a visualization, but not like when I try to visualize Chenrezig or something like that. It doesn't usually work for me. I mean, I have to work at that just like I have to work at watching my breath. But there was a time here, not too long ago, a couple of months ago, maybe ago, I was struggling with falling asleep and dreaming and waking up and going through the whole cycle of that. So there's that muddy, that muddiness around the attention.
Yeah, it's heavy.
And all of a sudden I had this I was seeing somebody terribly abusing somebody else in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
I was rapt. I came right up,
Mm-hmm.
and I could just watch it. I was just, but it was a strange thing. There was a sense of witness and guardianship or something like that. There was something, I don't know how to describe the emotion about it, but it was terrible. But my attention was there.
Mm-hmm.
So I just left my attention there.
And then the story goes at some point.
It did.
Yeah.
It did. And then it
Nothing
became,
lasts.
then I saw a painting that I haven't done yet, but I've been holding it in my mind for a long time.
Mm.
I intend to do it soon, but we'll see. And it's an abstract painting that has to do with the moon over the sea.
Mm.
And it's Chenrezi,
Mm.
but it's just the moon over the sea.
Mm-hmm.
There's some rocks, and it's all silver, with a little bit of gold and black. And I was able to just rest on that as well.
Nice.
So, where's the question in this? Has to do with tools for holding attention.
We don't try. You know, I mean, the Kagyu, just like this said, we are not trying. So that sounds, I'm just checking this with you, too much like trying to meditate. And when we're trying to do something, we are outside of the resting in the nature of the mind. So when we're resting there, the moon rises, the sea rises, the abused person rises, sleepiness rises. It's all the mind. And it has to do with that appearance emptiness. They're not two. You appear to me as though you're Zopa, Jeffrey, but you're totally different than the last time I saw you. Not totally, but you are different. All kinds of things happened to you and to me in between those times that changed us. But our minds, our common mind doesn't say that. It's like, there's Zopa again. There he is again. There he is again. As though you're not changing. But because of the emptiness, you are changing. And the appearance is changing. Actually, if I look at a picture of you 4 years ago and now, you have changed and I can see it. But I think we tried to get to, it's kind of like back to Matthew's question, we try and pin things down. Like, are these emotions in the good category and these ones over here in the bad? And is the thing that rises in my mind with an abused person disturbing, and then the ocean with the moon and the gold and silver, I can almost see that. Is that better? No. They're just appearances. And the minute we start adding all that meaning on, we're moving away from the pure experience. This is our difficulty. Don't elaborate. We want to stop elaborating, adding to what's going on. There's enough going on without us elaborating. But the other thing we do is what's the opposite of elaboration? I guess it would be ignore. We miss certain things. We miss, and they probably feed each other. Like I miss what I don't get what's actually going on because I'm elaborating something else. You've probably had that happen in conversations or with a friend We just totally miss what's actually going on because we've gone back into our own movie and we're making up the movie of what's happening with the friend. And we're not actually there. That's kind of what we're trying to do in meditation, is be there with whatever comes. And it's all just coming and going. But you could make a great piece of art out of it. And then that piece of art is already dying while you're making it. Because in, 100 years, who knows where that material stuff will be. Might be disintegrated, might have been burned, might have been thrown in an ocean, right? You know, Venerable Children once just scared us all so bad about impermanence when we were at the Abbey. And we were all like, we were so into the buildings we were building, and we built a lot of buildings together. You know, at one point, something must have been going on, like some fracas, because she just looked at us all and she said, "This building is already disintegrating." And it was one we were building. We were getting so like, wow. She said, "It's already falling apart." I mean, the minute you put something up, it's disintegrating. But we don't see it that way. We put it up and then we cling. And this is our suffering. I don't know if that helps with any of it. But we do it on the cushion with various visions and not visions. And we do it off the cushion with whatever's in front of us. I like that. I don't like that. That I don't care about. Those are all elaborations. All elaborations which keep us from the actual experience. It's almost scary when you think about it. It does come back to that thing that Lama Zopa told Lama Yeshe told his students. One of my gurus, Venerable Chidran, was a kind of wild hippie in the 70s, amongst all those 1970s US hippies that went over to Nepal and India. And she was in a room when Lama Yeshe was teaching, and some guy who was pretty drugged up Westerner said, you know, "Lama, what about, you know, just like dropping a lot of acid and meditating, and wow, you're right there. You're like, don't have to try." And he said, you know, you don't need to take any drugs because you're hallucinating all the time, dear. We are hallucinating all the time. And we need to know that. And we also need to know that we can pierce through that through practice on and off the cushion. Through the three things that Buddhism says to do: study, contemplate, meditate, over and over and over. And we do get these moments of peace. That's like, they can be kind of jaw-dropping. But the point is to get them, repeat them, and live there constantly. Not trying to try for it, because you noticed if you try for it, you don't get it. Yeah, that's why they say don't meditate. Don't push things away. Don't pull things towards you. Just be with whatever it is. Then we get a little bit happier, right? I don't know, I'm happy in this moment because you're here. If I was sitting here all by myself, I wouldn't be this happy. So, interconnectedness. Okay, that's it. We did enough. Let's dedicate it.
By this virtue may I quickly realize Mahamudra and establish all beings without exception in this state.
Thank you. See you later sometime. Oh, have good holiday. Christmas Eve and Christmas or any other thing you're doing.